My name is Amy Maslen-Miller. I identify as a New Zealand-born Samoan woman. I'm currently doing my PhD, which is 3 years worth of research looking at the Samoan traditional diet. It definitely wasn't in high school. I didn't like science in high school. So I would say for me, it started when I went to university, and it was in my first year of university. So I did a paper in plant science, and I really liked that because I got good grades in it, but I understood in more detail the molecular side of the plants and what goes on in a micro level. And so for me, that was really interesting. And another thing that got me into STEM was I attended this conference and I was volunteering, just helping people take their seats and making sure that everyone was comfortable. And the conference was for students presenting their work about Māori communities. So Māori people are the Indigenous people of New Zealand, and they were like master students and PhD students presenting their work in relation to Māori. So helping them and understanding the environment around Māori. And for me, that was really cool because I didn't know you could do that in science. And I really liked it because they were helping their own communities, but also doing their research and learning new skills. There's so many challenges when I start. The big one for me was relearning content in the university way, and then understanding how they marked exams and marked assessments. That was really difficult for me. And so I had to get some support. So there was a group called Tuakana, which is a program for Māori and Pacific students to assist with their academic work. So they had tutorials and also like drop-ins where you can ask questions. So I found that really helped with my work, and that helped me overcome that challenge of understanding the system of marking and examination. So they were helping with academic support and also partial support, so personal things in my life. That really helped me go finish my 3-year degree and continue on to my PhD today. I did some work in Samoa for 2 years, and the team that I was in, they were focusing on post-harvest work. So that's when, for instance, you harvest some breadfruit. So breadfruit is like, it looks like a soccer ball, and it's like green on the outside, but it's actually quite starchy when you eat it, and you can boil it or fry it like chips. And so they were harvesting breadfruit, and they were looking at ways to export it from Samoa to New Zealand. And so that group was saying, okay, could we fly it by airplane, or could we ship it by container? And if we did either of those things, in what condition would it be when it reaches New Zealand? Would it be rotting, or would it be still okay to have? And so post-harvest is looking at different ways to see how long we can preserve the fruit to get it from one place to another, but also how we can make the shelf life of the fruit longer. So another example is taro. I worked a lot on taro in Samoa. Yeah, a staple of the Samoan diet. It's like a root crop. So the taro is underneath the ground, and you can boil it, fry it, and it's also cooked in the traditional earth oven called the umu in Samoa. So with taro, we're looking at ways of exporting it from Samoa to Australia. So we were looking at what temperature to store it at. Does it like cold temperature or hot temperature? And what condition would it be when it gets to Australia once it's been shipped through the boat for 3 weeks? So that's a lot of the post-harvest work that I did in Samoa. So Samoan Scientist started when I was doing my master's. That was back in 2015. And when I was doing my master's, I was looking at taro again and a fungi that infects the taro leaves called the taro leaf blight. And I really loved that project, and I thought, man, I really want other people to see what it is like in science, and what I'm studying and what they could also do in science. And so I started the platform Samoan Scientist on Instagram, where I posted up a couple photos of some of my experiments and a little description of what my day-to-day looked like. And I started that because I saw that there were not a lot of scientists on Instagram at the time. And I also wanted to share my experiences so that students in high school that may be thinking about science know what it's like. Because I remember in high school, I had no idea what science was like, or what you could do, or what research you could do. So I felt that with the information that could give some more help or support for high school students in determining their careers. I've had a lot of good feedback and a lot of good discussions with people. Some people say, oh my gosh, I too am in the science industry and Pacific Islander. It's so nice to see someone else in the industry. And then some other comments are from students, asking more questions about the work that I did on Taro, or wanting to know more about my journey in science. And so I felt like that I've really achieved that social media interaction with the community, but I also want to engage more with our community in person, even though it's quite hard with COVID. One of my next goals is to really put myself physically into the community and helping them. So for instance, I had a meeting the other day with a school, and so they're creating a project around the chemistry behind foods. So, I'm helping them with that and hoping to go into the schools and help with the students. So that's definitely one of my next goals for Samoan Scientist. I would strongly recommend you to shadow someone. For instance, if you want to go into a lab or a research center, you can just say, can I please follow you around for the day and see what it's like in the workplace? And that gives you an idea what it's like in the real world and what people do in research and in science. And you can say, okay, I really enjoy that, or no, this is so not for me. So you can do shadowing. Also, if there's some sort of internship that you have within your school, I would really recommend that, or something during the holiday break or like a summer studentship. Really recommend that, because again, that gives you insight of what it's like day to day as a researcher in those different labs or research organizations. And if that's something that you really love, that's really nice to have that first connection, because hopefully once you finish high school and go through university, you maintain that connection, and they may have a job for you after you finish your degree. So it's a really good way to network, but also see, okay, is this career for me? So at the moment, it's very boring for my research. So I'm in my 4th month of my PhD. And for all researchers, we have to do a scope of the current research that's out there. So I'm writing my literature review. So I'm reading all the different works that relate to Samoan traditional foods. It also covers obesity and type 2 diabetes. And so I'm doing a lot of reading and a lot of writing. And what I'm trying to find is where my research fits into the current research out there. When it comes to research, you're always wanting to do something that's new, that someone else hasn't done, or building on top of research that has already been done. And so it's a really important part of the research project. So just at the moment, a lot of reading and writing. In high school, I thought science didn't have a lot of English or things to do with English. So I thought, yeah, I'm going to take science, but that's not true. You need to have really good English skills, reading and writing. That definitely helps. But I'm saying that's not really essential, because I'm not that good at that. But it does help if you have really good reading and writing skills. Another good skill to have is perseverance. So in science, especially with experiments, nothing goes to plan and a lot of things go wrong. So it's really good to be persistent with your work. If something goes wrong, troubleshooting, knowing how to kind of not dwell on the negative part of the experiment, but thinking, okay, what what do I need to do next? How can I solve this issue? And so because the science can be really challenging, it's really good to be persistent throughout your work and kind of not let it bring you down, which I mean, that's definitely happened to me, but it's really good to build up your persistence. Science wasn't what I thought it was going to be. So for me, I thought science was very straightforward. You do an experiment and you get a result and then you discuss it. And for me, science also meant that it was very westernized. So things are very done in a particular way and in one way. But what I've realized is that science is actually unpredictable. It's really a bit like a roller coaster, but here in New Zealand, I feel like it's changing. So for instance, we have a lot of science, a fusion of science and mataranga Māori, which is kind of like our Indigenous word for science, mataranga Māori. And so I've found that I can be more myself in science, that I can bring more of my culture to science, so my Samoan heritage, and study work that is going to help our Pacific community. And so I guess the takeaway is that science has evolved over time to allow more Indigenous voices and Indigenous projects to be carried out. More inclusion of a variety of voices. I'm a big believer that scientists are there for our community. So we are there to answer our community's questions. And our community is not made up of one culture, person or people. There are so many different races, ethnicities within our communities. And so our science needs to reflect that by having a variety of voices, ethnicities within the science and industry. So I really hope that we are able to develop that area of science and be able to create safe spaces for a variety of ethnicities in the science space so that we can better help our communities.